This is the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Good Wednesday morning to all of you wonderful hump day folks out there, and good morning to all of you veterans as well listening to us. We want to thank all of you. It is Veterans Day.
Yes, happy Veterans Day.
Happy Veterans Day to all of you wonderful people out there, and thank you to all of you veterans as well out there for the hard work and the dedication that you have provided this great country. So you allow people like Sam and I to do what we do today.
Could not do what we do without you guys.
Yes, indeed. So thank you to you, and to thank you to all of you listeners as well for tuning in. An exciting edition of the BG Sports Show coming up for you today. Apologies for not having a show yesterday. I had been battling sickness for the last week or so, and it finally caught up to me, and I had to take a personal day, unfortunately. But
you were pretty much violently ill.
Violently is a very strong word, Sam. A very strong word. But thankfully, I'm back. Everything is good to go in the sports world. We will be joined a little bit later on in the program by Fansided.com's Chris Gibbons to chat about the Big Ten and some of the craziness that's been going on with that. The new college football power rankings are technically out. Power rankings / just playoff rankings. That's the word I was looking for.
Playoffs.
Those are out now. The new BG Sports Show power rankings are out as well. So we've got all kinds of crazy things to get to, but before we do any of that, we want to just take a moment to remind all of you that you can get us right here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central live on Spreaker.com and on Periscope. Good morning to all of you watching us on Periscope. Great to see you. We've had some people checking in from all over the place as we tell you. Let us know where you're listening to us from or watching us. We'd love finding out where in the world you are and what sports teams and players that you support. And just being able to hear from different sports fans from all over the world is such a great experience. So we love hearing from you guys. You can also find us on Sports Radio America from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time on Live 365 and TuneIn, and then on demand as well on iTunes, iHeartRadio, and on Spreaker.com.
And for those of you that are into the whole social media aspect of things, we are definitely active on there as well. You can find us on Facebook at The BG Sports Show. We are on Instagram at BG Sports Show with the hashtag The Bax and Grant Sports Show. On Twitter, we are at BG Sports Show. Baxter's at Baxter Colbert, and I am at Samuel_Wallace2. And always remember, you can email the studio anytime at bgsportshow@gmail.com.
Absolutely. We love hearing from you, the listener, and we have a lot of exciting things to get to. First off, let's go to the NFL, Sam.
Might as well.
There's been some good news and some bad news for NFL fans. What do you prefer to take
I want the bad news
The bad news is if you are an Indianapolis Colts fan maybe this is good news, that Matt Hasselbeck is going to be your starting quarterback for the next 2 to 6 weeks because Andrew Luck has a kidney injury.
A lacerated kidney?
A lacerated kidney. So when I heard that, I was like, so somebody stabbed him in the kidney then? That's what I picture when I hear lacerated kidney.
Yeah, no kidding. Lacerated is just one of those words. I just feel you shouldn't Google the word lacerated. If you're not sure what it means, don't Google it.
It's kind of like lacerated. It's kind of like moist. It's just some of those words that you just don't ever really feel comfortable saying it. When you do say it, you kind of have to call your mom and be like, "Mom, is that okay? Can I say that word?
Can I say that word in public?"
Yeah, it's a little weird, but. So Andrew Luck will be out for at least 2 to 6 weeks. They're very vague on that.
That's a huge window.
That is. Usually you hear 2 to 3, within a week of each other, but you hear 2 to 6. It's well, I've never suffered a lacerated kidney personally that I know of.
Maybe they heal really quickly.
So maybe they do.
I don't know.
I don't know exactly what's going on with that. But so Sam, with this injury, then does this basically condemn the Colts season? I mean, they're 4-5, but somehow they're still on top of the division. What's going to happen with Indianapolis now going forward?
Well, let's remember that Matt Hasselbeck has yet to lose as a starter this season.
He's looking real good.
I think of all the backups, again, he's really the only one we've seen a lot of, but you look around the league at some other backups that have played some significant time, such as Landry Jones or Dallas just keeps, cycling through whatever backups they can find on the streets. But Matt Hasselbeck has looked very competent in running that offense.
Which is what you want from a backup quarterback. It's one thing to say, oh, we've got a good team.
Yeah.
And, but it's another thing to say we are competent in the fact of we have a great backup quarterback, because hardly any team in the NFL can say that. I would make an argument that I say that Green Bay could probably say that with Scott Tolzien. And he would you want a backup that isn't going to
cost you the game
and is going to do enough to help you hopefully win the game.
Yeah, I mean, I think Matt Hasselbeck is definitely probably one of the best backups in the NFL right now, just because of his longevity in the league, and he's been around long enough where he gets it. He's not freaking out under pressure. He's very, very comfortable stepping in and taking control of the team.
Yep, exactly. We do have somebody on Twitter. CPlath10 on Twitter says, Keenan Allen has a lacerated kidney as well. What's up with all the kidneys? Well, your guess is as good as our CPLATH 10. I wish that we had a better answer for you, but it is kind of interesting that you see two significant injuries to two significant players both within maybe a week or two of each other. Because Keenan Allen got hurt last week or 2 weeks ago, and Andrew Luck just got hurt this last week. I didn't even realize that he was injured after that Denver game, and then I got a notification yesterday saying that he was out 2 to 6 weeks. So
I feel like Andrew Luck just doesn't tell people about his injuries.
Probably not. Like but that just seems like the kind of player he is, though. He seems like a bit of a warrior.
Yeah, which I can appreciate, but at the same time, we find out, last week, he's been playing with bruised and cracked ribs for, the last couple weeks, and we're all like, what?
Since I know. It's like, man, he's going to hurt himself. Like, don't.
Come on, man. There's a point between, sucking it up and kind of being the Iron Man. I think like Brett Favre used to be, where he would just play through literally anything. But there's also a point when you need to be taking care of your body, and that's tough.
Yeah,
I
exactly. It's a fine line between tough and crazy, and I feel like he's flirting with it. So can I see you? No, I cannot see you, Sports Collector, on Periscope. Can you see us?
Yeah, those on Periscope, we can. Oh, no, you can see us, but we just see ourselves.
Yes,
we see what you see. Oddly enough.
That's scary.
It is scary.
Oof. We're good-looking guys, though. Anyway, the other thing, so we talked about the bad news-ish, good-ish. Depends on which way you look at it. I know Indianapolis is kind of a city divided right now with the Andrew Luck this season and the Matt Hasselbeck this season also. So
what's the good news?
The good news is that Wes Welker's got a job again.
Wes Welker, wow.
I know. Do you remember Wes Welker?
I do.
He was that big thing for a while. He's got that weird space alien helmet now from all the concussions that he's had.
Yeah, he's kind of been the poster child for concussions in the NFL.
No kidding.
I'm glad, I'm really glad he's coming back. He's had quite a long career in the NFL. I remember when he played back with the Patriots back in the mid to late 2000s. And then he had that good run with Denver when he was part of that awesome receiving core with Demaryius Thomas and things like that.
Yeah, he was very vital to their success. So Wes Welker, he is now headed down to St. Louis.
Yeah.
So he will be probably the new favorite target for Nick Foles, and St. Louis is going to hope that now that they've got a veteran receiver in Wes Welker, that they can get a little bit better consistent production from the offense. So with the addition of Wes Welker, Sam, does that make St. Louis a chance to maybe sneak in a wild card spot now?
I think they can, looking at their division. I know earlier off the year I was like, well, it might be a little too late, but they're sitting 4-4. They have a very good defense. They got a stud running back, but I just think the problem has been Nick Foles, honestly. And I really think that, Coach Jeff Fisher mentioned in an interview that I was reading up on that one of the big reasons they brought in Wes Welker was to improve their third down, conversion percentage. That was one part of their game he felt they really needed to work on.
Agreed.
And Wes Welker is one of those great hands receivers who very, very unlikely to drop a pass over the middle, things like that. He's not afraid to cut across the slant, take a hit. And again, that's been the reason for a lot of his concussions lately, has been his willingness to just give up his body over the middle, and that's very admirable of him, but we'll see how long he can keep playing if that's the case.
Yep, and I do find it interesting, too, that if you look at the current NFL playoff standings for the NFC, St. Louis is 7.
Yeah.
They are that first team in or that first team out.
He's the first team out, yeah.
First team out, I guess you want to look at it. St. Louis is right behind them, which is interesting because it's St. Louis, or Seattle's right behind them, excuse me, because St. Louis has that tiebreaker over Seattle. So if St. Louis can come up with a victory in the next day or two, they're second in their division right now. They're second in their division right now, behind Arizona. With the way that Arizona's been playing recently, there's a good possibility that they could maybe still sneak it in.
I think, it's one of those things where that division too. I feel like San Francisco at any point could just start to remember how to play football and can really upset somebody at home and play spoiler. Seattle, traditionally, as in the last 3-4 years, has been a slow starter out of the gate, but they've closed really, really well, and they've played well in their division.
Mm-hmm.
So they could definitely make some noise with the Rams and the Cardinals and shake things up. And I think a lot of these teams are just going to be beating each other up, just vying for not only that division title, but there's a very good chance of a wild card coming out of that division as well.
Absolutely, yeah. So a lot of other big things to discuss about the NFL. We are going to jump off to a break, but before we do that, we would like to take a minute to thank one of our sponsors of the BG Sports Show. That is Student Debt Center. You can call them today to have your student loan payment reduced. That number is 855-401-3508.
Yeah, that number again is 855-401-3508, and we will be back with more after the break. Don't go anywhere. This is the BG Sports Show.
Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Just a quick reminder for all of you wonderful listeners out there, you can catch the BG Sports Show live right here from 7 to 8 a.m. Central on Spreaker.com and on Periscope every Monday through Friday.
We are also broadcast from 11 to 1 p.m. Central Time on SportsRadioAmerica.com, live 365, and tune in. Check us out. Make sure to tell all your family and friends.
Absolutely. Otherwise, we'll find you. Yeah, we're talking to you out there. No,
Yeah.
we're just kidding. No, we do appreciate it if you share it, though. I mean,
all the Periscopians.
the Periscopians, the Periscopi.
We'll find them.
We will. We'll find all of you from wherever the world you are. It's kind of like where in the world is Carmen Sandiego for Periscope.
Yeah.
All right, Sam. The new college football playoff rankings have come out, and who knew that losing to Alabama would do such detrimental things to LSU? They went from being the number 2 team in the country
Dropped 7
to
spots.
number 9, the biggest. That's not true. I'm sorry. Memphis dropped 8 spots. So it's TCU dropped 7 spots. LSU dropped 7. So there's a few big drops.
Some
but
movers and shakers. That's
exactly.
what we like.
There's some movers and shakers, which is why the college football playoff system exists now.
Yep.
I still firmly believe they should go to 8 teams, not 4, but that's another topic for another time. Anyway, the new top 4 teams that are in the playoffs right now are Clemson at 1, Alabama at 2, the Ohio State at 3, pardon.
Ohio State.
And number 4, Notre Dame. So with that being said, looking at this top 4 right now, you would have a Clemson-Notre Dame matchup and an Alabama-Ohio State matchup.
Yes, you would.
If they started today. Gut reaction, who wins those games?
I'm going to go Alabama over Ohio State and Clemson over Notre Dame.
Okay, and then a Clemson-Alabama national championship game.
This has got to be Clemson's year. It's got to be.
Does it, though? But if it's Alabama, you always have to at least have as long as Alabama is ever in the playoffs, they have to have a good chance of winning. Not to say that the other teams don't, but I think Notre Dame's the weakest out of these 4 teams.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. But then again, the conversation starts up with Iowa, who jumped up 4 spots from number 9 to number 4.
To
number 5.
World?
They jumped up 4 spots to number 5. They're the first undefeated team on the outside looking in. Then there's always that conversation, well, does a 1-loss Alabama team, does a 1-loss Notre Dame team deserve to be in that top 4 when you have the likes of an undefeated Baylor, an undefeated Iowa, an undefeated Oklahoma State?
Yeah. So my question to you then, Sam, and I'll make sure to ask this to Chris Gibbons when he's on the show too about the Big Ten and everything right now. But if you look at Iowa, Baylor, and Oklahoma State, if every one of those teams runs the table the rest of the season, that would include Iowa having to beat Ohio State in the Big Ten championship game.
Yep.
Who gets left out then? One of those guys has to be left out because not all 3 of those teams are going to make it in. Because if Clemson hypothetically finishes the rest of the season undefeated, and let's say Alabama finishes the season undefeated, even if Notre Dame, for gosh sakes, or not Alabama's not undefeated, but
finishes the season.
Assuming though that Iowa, Baylor, and Oklahoma State all win out, all stay undefeated, I feel like getting in is going to be difficult because. For Baylor and Oklahoma State because they both play fairly similar opponents. I feel like one of those guys is going to get left out. For Iowa, it's hard because even if they beat Ohio State, how good are they actually to get in and how well are they going to actually do against a Clemson and Alabama? I just don't know.
It's hard to say, and it's one of those things where you're never going to make everybody happy. There's always going to be people that say, well, Iowa comes from, was it the Big Ten West, I believe? They haven't played a whole lot of, strong opponents. They don't play Ohio State. They don't play Michigan. They don't play Michigan State. That right there is 3 games where, if they had won all 3 of those games and they played all 3 opponents, I think they'd have a lot more weight to their strength of schedule. But, yes, they've kind of run the table and done what they should have done in a very, I would say, potentially lackluster division. They've played some very good football, but is it enough to deserve them to jump over the likes of a Notre Dame and Ohio State? I just don't see it at this time.
No, I don't see it either at this time, honestly. I think if anybody jumps in out of this, I think it might be Baylor, although Oklahoma State with a massive victory over TCU this last weekend, they made TCU just look like they've never played football in their lives. Trevor Boykin threw a career-high 4 interceptions.
Yeah.
It was a great, great day to be an Oklahoma State fan.
Yeah, and Baylor, as we all know, has just been running up the scoreboard, averaging, in the 50s for points per game nearly all season long. And I think that is a thing, too, that you can't just ignore. They haven't just been beating opponents. We're squeaking out wins here, squeaking out wins there. They've been destroying people every week, and they haven't lost the game. I think that needs some consideration as well. Not just the fact that they haven't lost, but just the quality of their wins.
I agree. And when you look at the other polls, you look at the AP Top 25, the coaches poll, even the NCAA College Football Power Rankings, The top 4 moves around just a little bit.
Yep.
And I know that at the end of the season, all they care about, though, is the college football playoff rankings.
Yep.
But it's always interesting to see how everybody else votes.
Exactly.
So Clemson stays at 1 in the AP top 25. Ohio State is at 2. Alabama is 3. And Baylor is 4.
Yeah, Notre Dame drops down to 6, and Iowa drops from being number 5 in the football rankings, to the college football playoff rankings, down to number 8.
Yeah. Stanford still stays at 7 in both. Oklahoma State is at 5.
LSU is still at 9, whereas in the playoff rankings they're 15. So again, yeah, it's interesting to see. It's more just information and some perspective, but at the end of the day, like you said, the only one that really matters is the playoff rankings.
Yep, exactly. Yeah, looking at the coaches poll, also same basic thing, except Ohio State is 1, Clemson 2, Baylor 3, Alabama 4.
Yep.
Once again, we mentioned Iowa dropping to 8. I think that shows a true testament of where they actually are. Even in the NCAA college football power rankings, Iowa's at 7.
Yep.
It really does showcase that not a lot of folks are buying what Iowa's trying to sell. As good as Iowa might be, but when is the last time you heard anything on national media consistently about Iowa?
Yeah, but the Iowa Hawkeyes.
No one's talking about it. I mean, maybe that's just because the media is more interested in what's going on with Ohio State, or
Exactly.
just because they've got all these big stars. And even if you're just a general follower of college football, you still can figure out guys' names like Cardell Jones, J.T.
Yep.
Barrett, some of those other guys, Leonard Fournette down at LSU. You're going to know those names, but even for Iowa, I couldn't tell you.
Yeah.
You could put a gun to my head and say, "Tell me an Iowa player, or you're dead." I'd be like, "Well, then I'm dead."
Yeah,
I
sorry.
know nobody from Iowa.
It's tough.
And I would love it if some more recognition came their way, but as we mentioned, it doesn't always work out that way.
It's just the nature of playing in the Big Ten, I feel. Unless you're one of those top programs, that's generally just what happens.
Yep, exactly. So looking at the college football playoffs as a whole, as they stand right now, as we mentioned, it's Clemson 1, Alabama 2, Ohio State 3, and Notre Dame 4. Before we go to a break, Sam, though, looking at these 4 teams, who out of these 4 teams is more than likely not going to be here next week?
Looking at the current top 4
The
right
top
now.
4 right now, who would you say will not be at this party next week?
Notre Dame.
Interesting.
Yep, going to go with Notre Dame.
Do you have a thought of who might replace them?
I don't at this point. I just think that the pedigree of the current top 3 in the playoff rankings with Clemson, Alabama, and Ohio State, I think just their name carries too much weight, where I don't think anything's going to happen to them at this point.
Okay, that makes sense. And I'm going to maybe ask Chris Gibbons about this too when he comes on, but I wonder if the Big Ten is just set up for failure, that if your name is not Michigan, Michigan State, or Ohio State, sometimes Wisconsin, but even then as an argument, that you just don't belong in the top 4.
It's
I
true.
just feel like that's just kind of how it's set up in college football, that unless you have one of those names is your name,
Yep.
you're just, no matter how good you are, no matter who you beat, you're just never going to get that recognition, and maybe that's just what the Big Ten might have to suffer with for right now.
Yeah, I did see one quick point. I saw somebody post on social media who's a very, very big Big 12 fan, and they said that the college football powers that be in the committee, they will never are more likely to put a high school team above a team from the Big 12, and that's just kind of reflected their sentiments about how they would pick some high school team out of nowhere and put them ahead.
And there's some
of,
good high school teams out there. Miami Heritage down in Miami.
ahead of any Big 12 team. So I mean, I understand where they're coming from. It's just
It does make a lot of sense. So, all right, well, we are going to jump off to a break, but before we do that, we want to make a quick mention about one of the other people that is so nice to our wonderful show. That would be Draft Fury. For those of you out there that love playing fantasy sports, you can join Sam and I on DraftFury.com this week. That's DraftFury.com. You can sign up today and play for free and have your first deposit matched by up to $1,000 when you use the promo code BAX. That's me. That's BAX on DraftFury.com.
Yeah, join Bax and I as we host an NFL Pick'em game this week. Find out all the details on our Facebook page, the BG Sports Show, or DraftFury.com.
All right, well, we're going to step aside for a break. When we come back, Fanside, it's Chris Gibbons is here. A lot of things to talk about with him and see what the Big Ten has in store for us this upcoming week. We'll be right back with more on the BG Sports Show. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show, presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Just a reminder for all of you social media lovers out there, make sure to like the BG Sports Show on Facebook. Make sure to follow us on Twitter and Instagram at BG Sports Show as well.
You can also find news articles, videos, pictures, and more every day. If you want to follow Bax or I on Twitter, you can find us at Baxter Colburn and at Samuel_Wallace2.
Absolutely. Sam is the one out of the two of us that decides to throw the underscore in just to screw with you because
That's me.
using his first and last name is just too mainstream, I guess.
It is, especially when no one else can find it on Twitter. So, yeah, we'll see.
Yeah, exactly. We do have an interesting thing on Periscope. Memphis Spence messages us in saying that Desmond King from Iowa leads Division I with all interceptions.
I know somebody from Iowa now.
Well done. I had no idea. Desmond, what was it? I forgot it already.
See?
Desmond King?
Desmond King.
Desmond King.
The things you learn.
Well done. Well, thank you, Memphis Spence on Periscope. We appreciate it. Well, since we are still talking about the Big Ten, it makes sense to talk about the Big Ten with our fansided.com good friend, Chris Gibbons. So good morning, Chris. How are you doing this, sir?
I'm just dandy. How are you?
Just dandy. Yeah. I'm doing well.
Hump day.
It is hump day. We're trying to get through this day with everything that we can do for the best of our knowledge. So the new college football rankings are out. Chris, what is your initial reaction of where some of the Big Ten teams found their spots?
Well, I was really surprised that Iowa got the respect that they did, and I was kind of hoping that they would, because you were talking before the break a little bit about, do you think Iowa will get that respect without the name? And it looks like so far they're getting it, as long as they can continue to run the table, and I'm really happy that they're getting that.
Oh, I'd agree with you on that one. I just have a hard time really getting behind Iowa right now. Maybe just because I haven't followed college football as closely as I have in years past, just because of multiple different, busy schedules and life and everything of that nature. I could tell you all about Lakeland College just because I do broadcast from them, but that doesn't benefit the power rankings right now or the playoff rankings.
Football team?
They do. They're very good, actually.
I think it definitely benefits Iowa, though, that this week Wisconsin snuck in there at 25.
I saw that, yep.
And Northwestern is still ranked, and they beat Northwestern. So
it's Iowa is
they
being,
have beat ranked teams.
They
but
have.
They're not the power Big Ten ranked teams.
So I will ask you this, and I know you kind of mentioned it in general. If Iowa runs the table the rest of the season, do they find a way to get into the top four?
I think they do. If they beat Ohio State, they have to be in. And you said you were talking about Oklahoma State, Baylor, which one of them has to go. It's probably they still haven't played each other this season, and they'll be playing each other in 2 weeks. So they can't both run the table unless I guess if they tie.
Yeah. Hey, in college football, isn't there unlimited overtimes until somebody finally wins, or is there a 3 overtime rule now?
I don't know.
I never remember with the overtimes in
College
college
football.
It's so screwy.
I think you
some
can
days.
eventually tie, but
So
I'm not
after
sure.
43 overtimes and everyone in the stadium has left, then you flip a coin and then you leave, basically. So, all right, Chris, looking at where Michigan and Michigan State come into these playoff rankings, Michigan goes up 3 spots to number 14. Michigan State drops 6 spots to 13. What is your thoughts and reactions about the two Michigan teams?
I mean, when you put them right next to each other, I think you have to put Michigan State just above Michigan because they won. But because the nature of that win was so fluky, I would probably still say Michigan's the better team. They ran most of the game against Michigan State. I mean, Michigan State didn't lead for a single second in the game. They lost after time, or they won after time expired.
True.
And Michigan State, they were playing Purdue close. They played Rutgers close, and this past week they lost to Nebraska, and that was pretty fluky. It took some creative officiating for Nebraska to get that game-winning touchdown.
Creative officiating. I like that.
But
Creative.
at the same time, you can't let a Northwestern team, a Nebraska team that lost to Purdue the week before, that got, honestly, smoked pretty hard by Purdue. like, you can't let them into the game. Like, you can't make that a one-score game, and Michigan State did that, and there was a bad call, and it destroyed them in the end, but, like, you can't let that happen.
Exactly.
So I don't think Michigan State is that. I think Michigan's better.
You think so? Okay. Well, yeah, I was going to say, looking at the end of the season for Michigan State, they play Maryland this coming week, then they go to Ohio State, then they play Penn State. That game, they would have to literally win out and hope for a lot of things to go in their favor to even think about it. They only have one loss, so that is going for them, but going to Ohio State is going to be the big challenge. Do you think that Michigan State has an opportunity to upset Ohio State at this point?
They have an opportunity, I think. Ohio State, with as much talent as they haven't always played up to their full potential. I think Ohio State's still going to come on strong in the end, but yeah, they need that, because if Ohio State wins that, then it's Michigan, Ohio State, in the, like, that, I can't even imagine what that game would be like.
That last game of the season for Michigan, Ohio State?
Michigan, Ohio State, if they win out from here, that game in the final week of the regular season is for the Big Ten East.
Which is crazy. And I think that would build, though, to the drama of college football.
That's, even when Michigan is bad, you can always count on that game because it's such a special rivalry.
Yes. No, I agree with you on that one.
And, like, being for the Big Ten East, going to the Big Ten, like, first spot in the Big Ten championship for Ohio State, that would be a spot for the playoff. So that, I can't think of a crazier game.
So I'm going to flip it over now on you, Chris, and look at Wisconsin for a moment. You mentioned that they're 25th now in the new college football power rankings, which is nice. I think that's a nice little consolation for them. They take on Northwestern this week, and then they finish up their season at Minnesota. More than likely, they'll end up going 9-3, 10-2, somewhere in that region. But
so you're saying there's a chance?
There's not a chance. No, everybody would have to lose from here on out for Wisconsin to even think about it. I wish, but how important was what Iowa did to Wisconsin back early in the season when they beat Wisconsin 10-6? I felt like at that point, as someone that follows Wisconsin football, I was like, you know what? This was good, whatever. Good for Iowa, I guess. Maybe they snuck it out. But now we're seeing that Iowa has been able to take that momentum and go forward. But was Wisconsin's just terrible start to their season against Alabama opening week the cause of this poor season going forward?
I guess a little bit. At the same time, like, you think Wisconsin, it's weird because Wisconsin hasn't had that running back that you can count on from Wisconsin's, like, that's never a problem from them, but this year their offense in general hasn't been that great, and Wisconsin really this year is more of a defensive team, which I don't think
something that people usually don't see or say very often, where it's like, oh, Wisconsin, that power defensive team. Like, what? Like, I mean, we've talked about it on the show before, Sam. I mean, Corey Clement has been in and out with injuries every other day, I feel like. I mean, there's no Melvin Gordon. There's no Monte Ball. Joel Stave is okay.
Yeah.
He's okay.
I guess, but to that defensive point, their defense has been very, very good this year.
Tanner McAvoy's done a fantastic job along with some of the other guys whose names are escaping me right now.
Yeah, but they have done a wonderful, wonderful job on defense. And statistically speaking, they are right up there with some of the best teams in college football, just looking at the numbers.
They are, yes. Jacob Pedersen's the guy that I was looking for. But, yeah, you look at it, they are second in the nation in points allowed. They've only allowed 12.3 points per game this season, which
I think a lot of people are forgetting that.
I forgot it myself personally. I mean, you go back, you look at some of these games, and yes, they've allowed the two games that they've lost. They lost 10-6 against Iowa. Okay, then they lost 35-17 against Alabama. That's the only game this season where an opponent has scored over 25 points against them. Aside from that, they shut out Miami of Ohio. They only got 3 points scored on them against Troy. They shut out Hawaii. They got 21 scored on them against Nebraska. They only got 7 against Purdue, 13 against Illinois, 10 against Rutgers, and then 24 against Maryland. That's not a bad production rate overall, considering that this is, like we mentioned, a very offensive-heavy team, and the defense has been the ones that are making the headlines this year.
Yeah, that Northwestern game's going to be really interesting because since the Iowa game, Wisconsin hasn't really played much of anybody.
I think they've played down to the level of their opponents because there's no business that they should have gone a 2-point game against Maryland.
No way. They're much better than that, and this Northwestern game and then the Minnesota game, which I think Minnesota is a little bit better than their record implies. They had a good game against Michigan. They played okay against Ohio State, only lost by 14, which is okay against Ohio State.
I was going to say, if you can only lose by... Yeah, no, I completely understand on that one. So, all right, well, Chris, what other final thoughts do you have for us about the Big Ten going forward to this upcoming week of action?
I would say this week there's not a whole lot going on. You've got Ohio State, Illinois, Michigan State, Maryland.
Is that a possible upset alert for Michigan State?
I mean, considering how they've played against bad teams, yeah.
I wouldn't surprise me if I turned on the TV later on Saturday afternoon and I see that Maryland's got a lead against Michigan State. Woo! Yeah. I'm going to become the biggest Terrapins fan on the planet.
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, Purdue Northwestern this weekend. Also, it's a game we think Northwestern should be able to take care of business fairly easily. Aside from that, though, Michigan Indiana, not a game that I'm terribly worried about if I'm a Michigan fan.
Yeah.
And then anything else that really stands out to you, though?
Minnesota, Iowa might say a lot about where Iowa is at right now, but Minnesota's also pretty beat up.
They are. They really are.
I mean, you play arguably the two best teams in the Big Ten East, and then you go to Iowa that's just rolling, and I don't envy them.
No, not one bit, unfortunately. All right, well, Chris, thank you so much for your time this week, sir. We will speak with you again next Wednesday, as we do right here. And where can folks find you on Twitter?
They can find me at Chicken McGibble.
Chicken McGibble. I love it every time. We got to maybe work with you a little bit on that one. It's unique, though. It's unique. I love it. All right, well, Chris Gibbons from Fansided.com. You can find his work over on Fansided and on Twitter as well. So, Chris, always a pleasure, sir. We'll chat with you again next week. All right, Sam. Well, there's some interesting things happening in the wonderful world of the NFL, which brings us to our power rankings, which we will get to after the break. But before we do that, we want to make a quick word from one of our sponsors, Student Debt Center. You can call them now to inquire about your student loans being reduced. That number is 855-401-3508 to make one easy student loan payment and to stop or avoid garnishments from your check.
Yeah, again, that number is 855-401-3508 for much lower payments based on your income and living circumstances rather than a fixed interest rate. Call now before Congress makes cuts to the national budget, which will nullify this free program. Remember, the number is 855-401-3508. We are going to be back with more here on the BG Sports Show right after this.
Welcome back to the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax.
And this is Sam.
Just a reminder for all of you wonderful people out there, you can get the BG Sports Show live, that's right, in all caps, Live, live from 7 to 8 a.m. Central, right here on Spreaker.com and on Periscope every Monday through Friday.
We are also broadcasted from 11 a.m. to 1 p.m. Central Time on SportsRadioAmerica.com, live through 65, and tune in, check us out, and make sure to tell all of your family and friends.
Exactly. All right, Sam, our new power rankings are out.
Finally.
The new BG Sports Show NFL Power Rankings after Week 9, headed into Week 10. A few people that were in the rankings a few weeks ago have found a ticket back to the party, and other people that were already in the party were not grateful for being in the party and now are getting escorted quickly out the door.
Yes.
So, with that being said, and we have a few guests at the door that are trying to break into the party as well.
They're trying.
They're doing their darndest. So, looking at the outside, looking in, Sam, we have 3 teams that received votes that are on the outside looking in. Who would those people be?
Coming in with their one token vote and falling out of the rankings like a rock here lately has been the Atlanta Falcons.
Goodbye, Atlanta. I think that if you lose the Tampa Bay, number one, you need to have a complete organizational meeting and say, what is going on?
Yeah. And also, too, when your prolific stud running back in Devontae Freeman accumulates 12 rushing yards on 12 carries.
It's like Leonard Fournette for LSU.
Yeah, something needs to change.
Yeah, something's got to give there if you are the Atlanta Falcons. The other teams looking in are the New York Giants, who got 5 points in voting, and the Seattle Seahawks as well, which I find slightly
ironic.
I
don't know.
Yeah.
Not buying it.
We have nothing to do with the fact that some of our staff is based in Seattle. Nothing at all.
Nope, that's all right.
They may or may not have been the only people that voted for them also. But, hey, it's no big deal. You'll find out that we're not biased because of where Green Bay falls in these power rankings. So nobody be freaking out about that. Anyway.
Nobody be freaking.
Our number 10 team has dropped 2 spots, Sam. Who is that?
Yeah, coming in at number 10 is the Oakland Raiders.
The Oakland Raiders have dropped from 8 to 10. And to be fair, they played a very, very good game against a decent Pittsburgh Steelers team. But Antonio Bryant had the game of his life.
Antonio Brown, yeah.
So the Oakland Raiders, Derek Carr, Amari Cooper, Michael Crabtree, those guys are still coming out doing really well, but they got into a shootout with a really good offensive team. Despite Ben Roethlisberger leaving that game, despite Landry Jones having to come in, Oakland just couldn't hold on at the bitter end, unfortunately.
Yeah, they gave, I would say, a good Steelers team all they could handle on the road. So
I would agree.
To put up 35 points, I mean, I feel if you score 35 points, you better win the game. So
I'd hope so. Yeah, exactly. So
come on, Charles Woodson.
Right, he needs to intercept more passes on a weekly basis. But so for Oakland, though, looking forward for them, Sam, I think they'll be a top 7 finisher in our power rankings.
I hope so. I've really been liking what they're doing. They're back to 500 now, 4-4, and yeah, we'll see what continues to happen.
Absolutely. All right. Well, the team that they did lose to is our new number 9 team, breaking into the power rankings after taking a week off. Pittsburgh has jumped to number 9 in our power rankings with 17 total votes. Pittsburgh there at number 9, Sam. How do you feel about what they're doing now going forward without Ben Roethlisberger again?
Yeah, well, again, they break into our top 10 for the first time. They took a week off. They were back down to number 10, then they dropped out, and they're back up to number 9. I think they have a ton of weapons on offense. Again, we saw Antonio Brown, D'Angelo Williams put up just monster numbers
this
hungry. Weekend. They are. But at the end of the day, Landry Jones is the one who needs to facilitate that offense and get the job done. And we've seen that Antonio Brown's value is directly tied to the health of Ben Roethlisberger, which is unfortunate for a lot of fantasy owners and just for Pittsburgh Steelers fans.
Yes.
I think we're going to see a heavy dosage of D'Angelo Williams moving forward as, they're every down back and also catching a lot of passes out of the backfield. I like number 9 for them. I definitely don't think they deserve to be higher than that, but I think they've earned a top 10 spot.
I do think so also. I think that this is a good Pittsburgh Steelers team. As you mentioned, I'm a little worried about the production going forward for Antonio Brown, for Landry. Now that he's got Landry Jones throwing him the ball. Martavis Bryant has done a great job all over the place. He did get a touchdown from Landry Jones, but I'm just not sure what to make of this Pittsburgh team.
A little hesitant.
Exactly. Another team that took a week off back in Week 8 but is now returned with a pretty big authority. It's one thing to take a week off and scoot in at like the bottom 1 or 2 or even be a looking team.
Yeah.
Well, this team now, number 8, Sam, is
the New York Jets.
They jumped in with 20 points in our power rankings. They were 7 back on Week 7. Now they're number 8 for us on our power rankings, looking fairly good again, looking like Ryan Fitzpatrick can play with one hand, which is fine. As long as it's your throwing hand that's not injured, you can still be just fine.
Yeah, you're good. And they beat the Jacksonville Jaguars only by 5 points at home. I think they should have done more in that game. Blake Bortles has been playing very well. T.J. Yeldon's been running well. The Allen Hurns, Allen Robinson duo out of the wide receiver core. Yeah, again, Jacksonville, they have a lot of good pieces. They can just never really put it all together. They have yet to win a game on the road this year. So it was good that the Jets won. It would have been nice to see them win by a little bit more than that.
Yes.
But again, I think the Jets have warranted at 5-3 to break into that top 10.
Yep, I'd agree with you on that one. Our number 7 team staying there for the second week in a row, which is also going to be sharing some of the spoils, unfortunately, with what Pittsburgh is going through right now.
Yeah.
The Minnesota Vikings come in at number 7 with 44 points. They lose their quarterback, Teddy Bridgewater, after they have a great game. And they go out, they beat the St. Louis Rams in overtime. Teddy Bridgewater had a good game up until the fact of when he left the game, but Sean Hill, the backup quarterback, did just enough that team to get to overtime and end up winning the game. But going forward, though, I have a feeling Minnesota might not be at 7 next week.
Yeah, we'll see. Teddy did pass his initial concussion protocol, which is always good. You need to be able to pass that first one even to practice. So there is a good chance that he will play this weekend, which would be huge for them because, again, their success is going to be directly tied to is Bridgewater under center.
Yes. No, I completely agree with you on that one, and it's more of a is Bridgewater in the shotgun than it is under center. But
that's true.
We've seen good production. Adrian Peterson got over 100 rushing yards this last weekend, which was good because if AP can get over 100 yards, that does usually bode well
takes a
for
lot
Minnesota.
of pressure. Takes a lot of pressure off of Bridgewater, which
it does.
And that's always a key component for a young quarterback.
Exactly. We've seen him finally step up and make the throws that he was needed to make. So I'm glad to see some production finally coming out of him. Hopefully he passes everything good. He comes back and he can play this coming week because in 2 weeks it's Minnesota-Green Bay, which will be for a shot at the division title at that moment.
Exactly. All right, coming in at number 6, staying at number 6, and I think that's fine. They took a week off.
They did.
The Arizona Cardinals with 57 points in our voting system.
And it's always hard to know for sure with a bye week team if you want to bump them down a spot. Some folks are like, you don't ever move a bye week team. Well, sometimes we do. Okay, just get over it. But they stayed the same. This is the third week in a row that Arizona has stayed at number 6. They have 57 total voting points this coming week. They had the bye week, so now they come up this weekend. They take on Seattle, which will be a huge battle for them.
Sunday night game.
A huge Sunday night ball game that I think will have a lot of implications going forward, not only for the playoffs, but also for that division title as well.
Yeah, both teams coming off of a bye. Both teams are rested. Both teams have had 2 weeks to prepare for this game. I'm really, really excited to see what's going to happen.
I am absolutely excited as well. Our number 5 team for the second week in a row is the Green Bay Packers after their humiliating loss to the Carolina Panthers, which we talked about in detail on Monday. I was actually one of the people that put Green Bay was my 6th team when I voted.
Yep.
This last weekend.
You even put the Vikings ahead of the Packers.
I did. I put Minnesota at 5.
Yeah.
In my
so for all
rankings.
you people out there that say we only love the Packers,
bunch of homers. No.
Yeah. No.
Not at all.
We try. We do our best. I will say we do our best to say it like it is and to be as objective as we can be.
Yes, and yes, if we wanted to have an entire show just about the Packers, well, Sam and I would be just fine with that.
Absolutely.
But
But
that's not what happens on this show. No. So, good job for Green Bay maintaining their position in our power rankings, even though they did lose to a team that is now ranked higher this week, but we'll get to them in a moment. Our number 4 team, Sam, this week.
Yeah, coming in at number 4, dropping one spot, is the Denver Broncos.
They did lose.
No longer undefeated.
They were not undefeated. They lost to Andrew Luck's kidney, his good kidney. You only need one, so that's all he needed to beat the Broncos. He beat them 27-24, which is a little surprising.
Yeah.
A little surprising personally. I thought Denver, after the way they manhandled Green Bay, I was like, oh, well, they manhandled a good, quote-unquote, Packers team.
Yeah.
They should go out and just steamroll a terrible Colts team.
It's weird at the NFL, sometimes week by week, like you said, you look at how Denver just destroyed the Packers' offensive line, and Rodgers still might be running somewhere
probably
away from them, from DeMarcus Ware and things like that. But I ended up catching the last little bit of that game, and the Colts looked good. Denver defense did not really have an answer. Frank Gore was moving the ball well. Andrew Luck was spreading the ball around the field. And, Denver looked very, very beatable.
Yes. Yep. Absolutely. All right. Now, our new number 3 team, and I mentioned this last week, Sam, saying the only way that the Carolina Panthers could break into the top 3 is, number 1, that Denver would have to lose and Carolina would have to beat Green Bay. And
which they did both.
Both of those things happened. So Carolina comes in for the first time this season at number 3 with 88 total voting points. The first time they had been stuck at number 4 for such a long time. Finally, Denver lost. Now it's Carolina at number 3.
Yeah. And here's a quick thought for you, a question. I saw a blurb that said the Carolina team of this year is looking a lot like the Seahawks team from a few years ago. A very prolific running game, an excellent defense, and a mobile quarterback.
That is very true.
With a, I would say, a subpar wide receiving core.
Agreed.
Yeah.
That's Seattle, Super Bowl winning Seattle in a nutshell right there.
Yeah, I think there's a lot of similarities there. I do like what Cam Newton's doing right now. He's been looking very, very good and spreading the ball around, moving the chains with his feet when he needs to. He's not looking to run every time immediately, but he's definitely not afraid to if he has to.
And I think it's one thing that Cam Newton has on his side is height. He's a big quarterback. He's not small like Russell Wilson is, so Cam can actually take that extra time in the pocket and see farther down the field where Russell, if his first or second read isn't there, he does have to get out of the pocket so he can find his other receivers because he can't see them.
It's all that Greek yogurt, I'm telling you.
Absolutely. 000, man. Do it. All right. And our number 2 team for the second week in a row, Cincinnati, coming in at number 2 with 98 total points, Sam.
Yep. I like what they're doing. They manhandled the Browns last week, Thursday already, so it's been a while.
Felt forever since they manhandled Johnny Manziel on Sunday night or on Thursday Night Football.
Yeah, we'll see. I like what they're doing moving forward. We talked about it. Tyler Eifert has been phenomenal for them right now. He's really been the catalyst for that offense and is really determining how and well they play. Yeah,
I'm curious to know what Cincinnati does on Monday Night Football against the Houston Texans. You'd think that they should power right through them, but as we also thought Denver was going to power through Indianapolis.
Exactly.
Do I think Houston's going to pull an upset? Probably not, but maybe J.J. Watt will look at the spotlight and crush Andy Dalton and ruin his new good hairdo.
Oh, don't say that.
I know. I'm sorry. All right, so our number 1 team, again, for the 5th time in a row, with 11 first-place votes is
the New England Patriots.
Boom, bam, baby. Tom Brady and company looking like the real deal, doing so many great things here on the NFL. There's not much else to really say about them. I mean, what negative things can you say? They needed to prove that they had a good running game. Okay, LeGarrette Blount ran for over 100 yards. Yes, Deion Lewis tore his Achilles, I think.
Wasn't his kidney, was it?
I don't think you... Well, I hope you can't tear your kidney. That would be so painful.
Anyways.
Tom Brady continuing to do really well. Julian Edelman looking like a really, really, really good wide receiver. Brandon LaFell coming back into things as well.
Patriots every week just finding guys that no one's ever heard of before and making them productive.
Exactly.
That's just a very good tribute to the coaching staff.
I feel like if I was ever an undrafted free agent, I would want to go to New England.
Oh, absolutely.
Because I would probably be the best receiver in the NFL after that.
If you're feeling undervalued, go to New England.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. All right, so one more time, Sam, our new top 10 power rankings.
Yeah, looking in, we have the Seahawks, the Giants, and the Falcons all trying to stay relevant, but otherwise breaking into the top 10. At number 10, we have the Oakland Raiders. Number 9, the Pittsburgh Steelers. Number 8, the New York Jets. Number 7, the Minnesota Vikings. Number 6, the Arizona Cardinals. Number 5, the Green Bay Packers. Number 4, Denver Broncos. And our 3 unbeaten teams right now. Number 3, the Carolina Panthers. Number 2, the Cincinnati Bengals. And number 1 with 110 points in our voting system, the New England Patriots.
The picture will be posted on our Facebook and Twitter feeds and Instagram as well following the show. So go check that out. Let us know your thoughts and voice your opinion. If you are a fan of one of those teams, let us know.
Yeah,
let us know. We're excited to hear about that. So the playoffs, though, Sam, for Major League Soccer are right around the corner. They are continuing to get hotter and hotter.
Good.
The Western Conference and Eastern Conference championships are starting this coming week. I'm sorry, not this week, on the November 22nd, and some unlikely teams making it there, but we'll talk about that when we come back from a break. But before we do, we want to make mention for all of you fantasy sports players out there, we would encourage you to come and join Sam and I this week on DraftFury.com. That's DraftFury.com. Sign up today for free and have your first deposit matched up to $1,000 when you use the promo code BAX. That's BAX on DraftFury.com.
Yeah, join Baxter or I as we host an NFL Pick'em game this week. You can find all the details on our Facebook page or at DraftFury.com.
We'll be back with more here on the BG Sports Show. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to the BG Sports Show presented by Sports Radio America. I'm Bax. To wrap up the show today, we want to take a quick moment to remind all of you that you can find us on social media on Facebook. You can go and like the BG Sports Show page on Facebook. On Twitter and Instagram, we are at BG Sports Show. You can find all kinds of news, articles, videos, pictures, and just about anything, honestly, when it comes to this BG Sports Show on social media. So go check us out on a daily basis. You can also follow myself on Twitter at Baxter Colburn, and Sam is Samuel_Wallace 2. All right, well, to wrap up the show today, we want to take a moment to see what's happening in the wide world of soccer and the MLS playoffs. It was a crazy conference semifinal weekend back on Sunday. The second leg of action was taking place for all the games. It was FC Dallas and the Seattle Sounders, the Vancouver Whitecaps and the Portland Timbers, Columbus Crew and Montreal Impact, and then the New York Red Bulls and DC United. All 8 of those teams battling it out to the bitter end, and it was quite the interesting game from all of them. So, looking at it, starting in the Eastern Conference, the New York Red Bulls had a 1-0 goal lead going into the game. They got one more goal, and that's all they needed, and it was from Bradley Wright Phillips, and they advance to the Eastern Conference Championship with a 2-0 victory over the DC United. Also, it was the Columbus Crew coming in trailing 2-1 to the Montreal Impact, but Kai Kamara and company go for 3 goals and take down Montreal 3-1 and win that series 4-3 on goal aggregate. So it will be Columbus and New York in the Eastern Conference Championship game. And I was worried about Columbus just because of the lack of production from Kai Kamara coming into this series as a whole. He struggled against Montreal in the first game, found a way to do really well in the second game, and now it looks like Columbus is probably one of the hottest teams in Major League Soccer as they go to take on a very good New York Red Bulls team. However, I just have the slightest feeling that Columbus might be playing for an MLS Cup championship come December 6th. Looking over on the western side, it was Portland. They drew 0-0 with Vancouver in Game 1 and then came back and pounded Vancouver for 2 goals. They advance to the Western Conference Championship on 2-0 aggregate. And it was over with, in the other side, it was FC Dallas and the Seattle Sounders. FC Dallas lost the first leg 2-1, but came back and won the second leg 2-1, which meant the aggregate was tied at 3 apiece. So they had to go to a penalty shootout, and it was FC Dallas that prevailed in the penalty shootout 4-2 on penalty kicks. So now it is FC Dallas and the Portland Timbers that will go to the Western Conference Championship. Of the 4 teams that are still remaining in the MLS playoffs, it's going to be very interesting to see what transpires, especially over in the Western Conference, especially with Portland, just because of the kind of coming out party that they've had here at the end of the season. They've gone to penalty kicks in the first game, the knockout round. They had to beat Sporting Kansas City 7-6 on penalty kicks. Then they pretty soundly took down Vancouver. They've scored 2 goals in 2 out of their 3 games so far, so they're scoring goals, which is a good thing, especially in soccer, because obviously you can't win a game if you don't score goals. However, you need to look at Portland and the fact of that Fernando Adi started to really step up. Darlington Nagbe also is really looking like a fantastic player finally. So Portland's got everything in their favor going right now. But FC Dallas, even though they're the number 1 seed in the Western Conference, they were still kind of that underdog just because of how that team, has kind of come around up until this point in the season. So looking at the 2 games right now and making predictions, this is the first leg that takes place on November 22nd. We'll make sure to get Chris Blakely from Vavle USA on the show in the future so he can talk about these games more in depth. But looking at it right now, I would have to say I think Columbus will win the first leg against the Red Bulls, and I think that FC Dallas will win the first leg against Portland. So Portland hosts that first leg, though, so say what you will, folks. You might be saying, well, what the heck? How do you think that's going to happen? Well, it's possible. Soccer is a very interesting world. I do want to also make mention of some news in Major League Soccer as well. Orlando City SC rookie forward Kyle Larin was named the 2015 AT&T Rookie of the Year after he scored 17 goals as a rookie. He had himself a fantastic rookie campaign. He also wants to make mention that it was courtesy of Breck Shea his teammates at Orlando that helped him get to that point as well. So we are going to be wrapping things up here on the BG Sports Show. It's had another exciting edition of it. Special thanks to Fansideds.com, Chris Gibbons for joining the broadcast today. My co-host has been Sam Wallace. I am Baxter Colburn. We will be with you again tomorrow. David Kenyon will be here, so that'll be a good time. And so many other things will be taking place tomorrow as well. We'll be checking in with the NBA to see what's going on. Connor Christensen will have his fight corner as well, as we are getting towards the very eve of Ronda Rousey and Holly Holm as well in UFC 193. I'm Baxter Colburn. He was Sam Wallace. We'll see you all again tomorrow. Have a good rest of your day, folks. Enjoy your hump day, and thank you to all of you veterans out there.